Yah said that the nation of Kenya can never be allowed to defeat the beast system. This prophecy is for Kenya, the nation of Kenya that is currently in tumult, currently in turmoil, currently burning everything that their young people can get their hands on, extremely angry, calling for the resignation of the president, demonstrating in the streets. The whole country is up in arms. Even the old people that can't join the protests are upset. And the Lord said that the nation of Kenya can never be allowed to defeat the beast system. African countries, you must listen in. You must listen in. Don't listen and think, oh, this is Kenya's prophecy. Yes, this is Kenya's prophecy, because Kenya is going to be the Truman for you to look at how it works. After you hear this prophecy, if you still insist on sleeping, then you're sleeping on your own. So if you're African, whether you're diaspora, whether you're at home in your country, wherever you are, listen. Kenya can never be allowed to defeat the beast system. They will never be allowed to have the last word or a permanent victory. Therefore, look for them to be defeated by the same government in the near future for doing what they did, for going on TV, for striking back at their government which they elected. They shall never be allowed to make this example and remain. The beast system will strike at them harder than ever before by the same government. Ruto is the same one who will do this to them. This government that they have sent scattering in the streets is the same one that will form a fist of oppression and strike back harder at them. They are fighting for their freedom, but they will not have it. For no government that is under the control of the beast system shall allow its people to offend them like this. They will be told what to do from the head, and then they will do it. Fires of revolution are coming to the nations, and yes, they will burn for a while, but eventually those fires will be put out. The final rise of the system that tramples the residue is in movement. Soon, protests will be met with armed force and police brutality that is far beyond the norm. And when it does, people will cry out from their woes and oppression. Yet this shall not stop the advance of the beast system, nor shall it cause the hand of control to retract. The beast will use cunning, craft, magic, dialogue, witchcraft, seduction, artifice, manhandling, disinformation, and brute force to achieve its objectives. People will crumble in front of this system like bread, and their needs will only be met as long as they comply. And so a year ago, God says that Kenya was going to come into economic problems. Kenya was going to have economic woes. God said that Kenya is going to have a very, very, very difficult drought and famine. And it should be understood, as I said in that prophecy, that you cannot have a famine without a drought, because it is the lack of rain that will cause the nation to be able to produce less food. And when food is less, the one thing that always happens is the price of the food goes up, because it becomes what we call a dear commodity. Less food will always be more expensive. And when food is more expensive, you are bound to have revolution and backlash. God also said that William Ruto was going to be experiencing public backlash. And if you can see now, there's a lot of Kenyan commentators, and the one thing they keep saying is, we never had something like this before. We don't have something like this before. That is because Kenya is known to be law-abiding generally and quite peaceful and stable. It is a diamond of a nation, rich in natural resources, rich in wildlife. Also, the people are a valuable resource in it, and what their temperament is like. They're not hot-headed usually. But what is happening in Kenya is a point on fulfillment of the prophetic word that was given just a little bit over a year ago. And now God is bringing Kenya an update to their prophecy. And this is what he is saying. Kenya, you will never be allowed to defeat the beast system. You're in the streets right now and you're upset, and you may have a right to be upset if people are trying to hike taxes on you when you're already not being paid fair market value for your labor. Maybe the economy is contracting. I don't know what the social or the economic situation is over there, because that is not my portion. My portion is to read out what God is telling you and to interpret it for you so that you will not be confused. And what God is saying is that Kenya, which is right now a typology of a fiery revolution. The title of this prophecy is The Fires of Revolution, the Rise of the Beast System. So Kenya is a typology of a fiery revolution that has risen up because all the Trumans in the nation of Kenya have started to realize that there's some very rotting fish in the country. The country is not smelling so fragrant as it was when Kenyans were dancing a year ago to welcome their new president, to have him come in. They were happy. They were excited. They chose him. You chose him. But now he is in, and he seems to be wearing another skin. And this is why you take umbrage with the old words in the prophecy that says he is good. I'm here to let you know that when good men come into positions of power, They deal with pressures that you at the lower level, that we at the lower level know very little about. Here in America, there's more of an understanding because people know in America that absolute power corrupts absolutely. In America, there's a very wide group of people who understand that it doesn't matter how clean cut a man is, it doesn't matter how well-meaning a man is, it doesn't matter how committed to his faith a man is. The minute that man begins to draw near to the centralized magnetic pole of power in the United States, he's going to end up gay, he's going to end up cruel, he's going to end up having affairs, he's going to end up snorting cocaine surrounded by 18 hookers, unaware that he is being taped. And so as you're climbing the ladder, it's not impossible, but it is almost improbable that you will be able to rise to the top or near the very top without being taken. And so Kenya, if you don't understand why your president has suddenly gone from light to dark, it's because the magnetic core of power that is centered here in the United States, which is the seat of the beast, has got that man. So hearing this, Kenya, you can then understand what God is saying to you. Your president is now corrupted. And if you want to know why your president is corrupted, the answer is very simple. You yourselves are corrupted. There's a very high sex rate in the nation of Kenya. And God has been saying this and saying this as I was wrestling with this 6-day Kenya fulfillment video. There's a very high rate of sex in the nation of Kenya. And this is sex that pretends to be born again. It's not even like here. People don't pretend to be saved. Well, they are saved and having sex here, but then they'll just say something like, God knows my heart, or don't judge me. Don't judge me. It's been a while, or something like that. But in Kenya, because the nation used to be so God-centric and so God-focused, the culture frowns on open sexuality while saved. There is a massive, massive contingent of people in Kenya who claim that they are saved and they are sleeping with everything that moves. A high presence of the spirit of lust in that country. Very high, and lying about it through your teeth. Getting together to have late night 6-hour marathons talking about we're praying in the spirit. I invited the sister over to my house to pray in the spirit. Why do you tempt the Lord? Why do you tempt the Lord? People, you're fornicating and then you're covering it up with the mantle of Christianity. Let me tell you something flatly here. If you count among your friends, and your friends say they are Christian and they're sexually active, to the height of the number you can count on your finger, so go you. Because bad company corrupts good morals. If you can only count 1 or 2, that is the distance. You are 1 or 2 steps away. You can count 5 or 6, you can just know that you're about to be the 7th in no time. The higher number you can count, the higher potential that you will fall into that sin. Because demons will not tolerate the light of Jesus Christ around them. It's either you will evangelize and leave, you will not be able to keep their company. You will have to treat them as anathema. You will have to treat them as people who are not born again that you are trying to witness to. But if you are Kenyan, and if you are watching this video, and you are a fornicator, William Ruto is God's gift to you. William Ruto and everything he is doing, once good, now corrupt, is God's gift to you. Once pure, and now a fornicator, an adulterer, someone who indulges in masturbation. Someone who has a very lustful inside and loves to look at men, or loves to watch porn, or loves to look at women and fantasize about them. Watching your president go dark is how it feels to God watching the nation go dark. Pretending to be light, yet dark. He is heaven's payments and gift to you. For when a nation falls into sin, God will allow cruel and unjust leaders to rise up in oppression over them. Cruel kings arise when the nation is itself cruel to the Most High. So that is just for your understanding. When you hear God give messages, the first thing that we should do is to try to say, if the message that I'm hearing doesn't match up with reality, it only means a few things. It means that it's matching up to reality in a way that I don't yet understand. Or it's going to match up to reality. The fault is never with God. The fault is never with what the Lord is saying. But when it comes to the Kenyan situation, God says that you can never be allowed to defeat the beast. And the reason you can never be allowed to defeat the beast, Kenya, is because the nation behind the beast is the one that I'm sitting in right now. It's America behind the beast system, the seat of the beast system. The greatest beast masters are here. The architects of destruction. I've been calling them since I started writing these prophecies in 2019. The architects of destruction will never allow any African country, any Latino country, any Southeast Asian country, anybody to rise up and embarrass the beast when the beast is in the process of implementing new laws. New times. He will think to change the times and the laws. This is biblical prophecy. You will never be allowed to defeat the beast system because the beast system is itself a spiritual reality. And a wise person, no matter what you hear in these prophecies, the minute you peg what you hear back to the Bible, you will feel this peace. No matter how so-called scary it sounds, you will feel this peace. How can you defeat the beast system when it's written in God's book that the beast system will prevail against every tribe, every tongue, every people? He will wear out the saints of God. As we go in this prophecy, you will hear how you will be worn out. How can you feel that the uprising in the human heart will unwrite what is written in the Bible? Where will God be? Where will God be when this is happening? That the rise of human collective refusal to be used, to be trampled, to be controlled. Where will God be if simply because we didn't like it, we could rise up and push off what is coming? Do you not know that what is coming is our punishment? Do you not know that the rise of the beast system is simply the conclusion of the generational corruption of man? So who's going to defeat that storyline? Who's going to say, well, we are the ones living now and we revolt in Nairobi. We will burn everything and then they will stop. God says that this government is going to strike you back. Kenya, God says that this government is going to strike you back for what you are doing. And please don't misinterpret my words and say, oh, Celestial then told us to capitulate. I'm not here to ever tell anyone what to do. What happens at your house, what happens in your nation, what happens, the choices that you make. My job when it comes to Christianity, yes, I certainly will preach it as it is. Deliver these prophecies as they are. But when I'm telling you the facts of what God is saying, it doesn't mean that I'm giving you advice. He says that the fires of revolution will burn. So many other nations will join you. You're not the first. We've been having these upheavals ever since. We've even had minimized ones here in America. We had the whole trucker thing in Canada. It's just not going to change anything. God says that Kenya can never be allowed to have the last word over the beast system. Kenya can never be allowed to have a permanent victory over the beast system. So he says, look for them to be defeated by the same government in the near future. Now, the government already came out and fought you, beat you, and killed people using live rounds on a crowd. Moved from the rubber bullets, moved from the other things, killing people with live rounds. But he says that there is a defeat coming in the near future, and it's coming for what you did. So for daring to revolt. And then he also says, for going on TV. What does this mean? Kenyan youth made the cover of the New York Times. Kenyan youth, this uprising that is happening, made the covers of one of America's most major publications. Because I don't think it was the Post. It was the Times. You were on the front cover. So this is, to the Klaus Schwabs of the world, this is the kind of embarrassment that they can do without. When they do their evil, they want to do their evil in a way whereby it's contained. So ideally, they wanted President Ruto to introduce whatever he's introducing and to tell you he's doing it because he's the president and he's mandated to do it. There are legal provisions allowing him to do it. The parliament that he was yelling at are his supporters. This is what he would want to do. And then the way they do it is they just change the times and laws and just slide it right on in there. 1 minute Americans were free and the next minute we're living under mandates. 1 minute we were free, the next minute they just locked people up and told them, get it or you lose your job. Your arm or your job. It was suddenly the new rule. Suddenly you had to choose. Do you want to still get a salary? Do you want to still eat? Do you want to still look after your family? Or do you want to keep your arm and then lose everything? This was the choice we were faced in. That's their modus operandi. It's to slide it in and then just pass it and say we're the government, we're doing it for your best interest. But because God had prophesied and said that there would be public backlash, the people did rise up to fight it. So now they're embarrassed. Now they're backpedaling. Now they're using what we call peace and safety, conciliatory language, like saying, consequently, listening to the dialogue. I was just listening and saying, God, what dialogue was there? What dialogue was there? These young people were burning chairs inside the parliament building. They were chasing the members of parliament out and burning the seats of government. There was no dialogue. There was backlash. But they will have to play it off for the sake of embarrassment, for the sake of the shame. But you must understand that who you shame in the public becomes your enemy. Who you shame in the public becomes your enemy. And God says that this government is going to form a fist and is going to strike you back. And because they are government, they have the prison system on their side. They have all the footage of the youth that they can go and look back at. And God says that a fist will be formed, and the same government that you sent scattering in the streets will form that fist of oppression and strike harder at you. They are fighting for their freedom, but they will not have it. For no government under the control of the beast system shall allow its people to offend them like this. It's not really the Kenyan government that you offended. It is the beast system that came to put chains on Kenya and met with a strong resistance, a stronger resistance than it's used to getting. So while human beings will battle, like the angry people in the valley, they will battle at the small level. Fires of judgment are going to come from God on all nations who carry out satanic policies instead of godly policies. And many of these countries have given up so much power because of the need for aid money, because of the fact that they're very small and they've never had independent international voices. Have you ever seen them give Guam or Haiti the floor at the United Nations? Have you seen it? Because I haven't seen it. They don't make them the chair of anything. They don't make them the lead of anything. They don't put the small in the front. The small are created or expected to follow the large. And so fires will break out because the beast will be changing. The beast will be making changes to the reality you know. And you won't like it, whether you are in Kenya, whether you are in Uganda, whether you are in South Africa, whether you are in Bissau, Guinea-Bissau, Mauritania, Mali, Liberia, Ghana, Togo, Benin, wherever you are, Ethiopia, Eritrea. It doesn't matter where you are on that continent. They will change it. And when you start to feel it in your flesh, when you start to feel the increased prices in your flesh, when you start to see the unfamiliar landscape in your flesh, Africa, you will become a land of QR codes. When you see them fixing the roads, when you see them fixing the lights, when you see them fixing the schools, it's the bribery for what is coming after. It is the extension of a hand of friendship, but that hand is bringing death. I'm not saying don't have roads, and I'm not saying don't have schools, and I'm not saying don't have improved classrooms. I'm saying that you can't shake hands with a bear and then be surprised when the thing rips your arm off. It's a bear. And so God says that the final rise of the beast system, all nations, please listen in. When the final rise of the beast system kicks in, these people are not going to be polite anymore. This is where trampling the residue. This is when you can't win them, when you can't win them with toys, and you can't win them with celebrities, and you can't win them with give up your money for the digital wallet and let all your babies have the Maisha card. Let it be embedded somewhere on the skin for all the newborns in 2030. When you can't win them with soft words and you can't win them with it's for the greater good, then this is where force will come in. This is where the beast system will establish itself at the point of a gun. This is where it will establish itself with lockdowns, with more mandatory mandates, with crushing up constitutions and taking away basic civil rights in order to quell dissent. In other words, to silence voices that do not agree. Another thing that will happen when the beast system is rising to prominence is look out for the rise of that's the enemy. That's the enemy. It's amazing how grown people who have education of some level in America use the word hate. You will see someone visibly in her 60s. You're speaking Bible verses and then she will come and say, you speak hate. It's a generalized brainwashing. And the choice of word, the word that is favorite in the mouth of people in the United States to use the word hates should tell you that the Bible never lied when it spoke of haters of God. Because to say that scripture and speaking the truth of the word of God and the prophetic truth of God on his behalf is hate, reveals the mirror image inside that person that they actually are one who hates God, for they do not recognize him in his pure true form. They love the false version of him. And so when he comes as he is, blunt and ready to purge and thresh the church, it is called hate. It is so telling how people advertise who they are. Watch in the future beast system for the rise of that's the enemy. That's the enemy. That's the enemy of our progress. That's the enemy of change. They will turn people in Africa against one another by labeling the people who don't want these extreme changes as people who are stuck in the past. Dinosaurs. They don't see the bright global future. The best and the brightest African minds will be invited behind closed doors. I'm going to say everything. The best and the brightest African minds, whether you have schooled locally or whether they sent you overseas or whatever and you came back, they will invite you behind closed doors and they will speak words painting to you a whole new vista, a whole new world. I want you to know when you go into those rooms, they are selling the beast system to you. Not everything that says convention, that says symposium, that says conference. When you go to those places, you don't go with stars in your eyes. You go with your ears open so that you can be aware of the beast language. This is for everywhere. This is for Southeast Asia and this is for South America. For you are the last places that they are waiting to extrapolate this plan. The plan cannot work. Please see my hands. To those of you who are listening by audio, try to imagine that one hand is up by my temple and the other hand is down by my collarbone. You cannot be successful in executing a plan when you have disparities this big. When you have some nations that have so many things, they're so much more advanced in the world. And then you have some nations that are so far behind in stuff that they still don't have digital wallets yet and stuff like that. The beast will work on an even playing field. Everything must be evened out. Everything must be normalized so the plan can really run. It's not necessary, for instance, to build massive centers. It is quite possible that places in Africa will simply be turned into mass production centers. Why? Because these people have always seen you as free labor. You have always looked good as a worker. The less the worker gets paid, the better. The first designation was slave. The next designation is low wage. The third designation is neocolonialism. The fourth designation will be beast slave, working for credits to survive in a society that is fully automated. There's no country that is going to resist this thing en masse. So if people have ears to hear, then you hear that you are going to be living in a society that is going to build itself up around you without your permission, without your buy-in, without whether you like it or not.